จโลกาทิปติสัมปติกัดอัญชลียันทิวารังอายาจถาสันติตสันตาปาราชาคชาติกาเทเสตุธัมมังอนุกัมปิมังปะชัง
นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะ Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Okay. So the Buddha once said, formerly and now, I only teach dukkha and the cause of dukkha. And he said that, when he was still alive, but it's still true. Formerly and now, the teachings of the Buddha are all about dukkha and the cause of dukkha. I would love to see a show of hands. Does anybody not know what dukkha means? Nice. Wow, I applaud you, because we said dukkha so many times in this chant, and I was just like, oh gosh, I hope everybody knows what it means. But yeah, dukkha, it's a really useful concept, because that's formerly now, that's all the Buddha talked about, dukkha and the ending of dukkha. So dukkha is the whole range of unsatisfactoriness and suffering in the world, from the utter extreme of abject suffering and pain and war and starvation and all of the most painful aspects of a human and any existence, the hellish, most, the worst realm that you can imagine. That's dukkha. And just the stress of most of us here aren't living, hopefully, a hellish existence, but it's just all of the stresses that even, people who are here today, all the stresses that we feel from day to day, just the stress of work, the stress of family, the stress of life, the stress of meditation, all of that is dukkha as well. And even up to certain types of happiness, most types of well-being that we know are also dukkha, in the sense that they will pass away. So what the Buddha is talking about with this word dukkha is the whole spectrum of felt experience. And what is not dukkha is nibbana. And we're inclining to that direction. But that's not to say the Buddha only talked about suffering. He also talked about the path that leads to the end of suffering, the end of suffering. And that's really what these Four Noble Truths that we were chanting in that setting in motion the Wheel of Dhamma discourse, his first discourse, in which the three gyms, the three refuges of the Buddha was teaching it, the Dhamma is what he was teaching, and the Sangha are those enlightened beings who heard it. This sutta, this discourse, was the birth of the Sangha. When one of his disciples heard this, Anya Kondanya, he heard the teachings and he became enlightened. So yeah, that's what we can do. That was the birth of the Sangha. So we can do that. And the Buddha is teaching both suffering, which is the first noble truth, the cause of suffering, the second noble truth, that there is a cessation of suffering, the third noble truth, and a path leading to that cessation. So how does that fit into that first, that two-part teaching that the Buddha says he teaches? Just suffering and the ending of suffering. So those first two truths of the Four Noble Truths are that first aspect, suffering. But he also teaches the ending of suffering. That's the path, the fourth noble truth, and the third noble truth, the realizing of the end of suffering. So we can definitely foreground suffering in Buddhism, but you can also really conceive of a Buddhist path, a path, really any path of insight and wisdom, of also being a path of sukha, which is the opposite of dukkha, just getting better and better at the types of sukha that we feed on, the types of pleasure that we're addicted to, getting more refined and taking more and more beautiful, feeding on more and more wholesome things, until eventually we don't need to feed anymore. That's what nibbana is. So we're leaning in that direction. And that's everything that we're doing tonight, and hopefully everything that we're doing in our lives really is part of this fourth noble truth, is the path leading to the ending of suffering. Right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. So taking the precepts, that's right action and right speech. So we're refraining from harming, and that's part of the path that will lead to the end of suffering. And our chanting is hopefully part of right mindfulness, keeping in mind the Buddha's teachings that lead to the end of suffering. And when we do our chanting later, where we say, Itipiso Bhagava Arahang Sama Sambuddho, Vijacharana Sampanno Sugato Lokavidu, Anuttaro Purisa Dhammasarati Sattha Deva Manusanang, Buddho Bhagavati. That is recollecting the Buddha with mindfulness, recollecting a being who has attained awakening, in a state of awakening that we can incline to ourselves. So that's what we'll be chanting and practicing the fourth noble truth there as well. I've reread a book recently which hopefully people here have read or at least heard of. And if you haven't read it yet, I would recommend it if you can read. The book is Atomic Habits, and it's not explicitly a Buddhist book, but that book is super Buddhist, everybody. That book has so much truth in there. And what the author of it, James Clear, what he points to is what he calls the habit loop, which is cue. There's a cue, different CUEs, cues in our environment, things we see, things we hear, things we smell, taste, touch, which then lead to craving, then lead to a response from us, and then there's some kind of reward. And both the second noble truth is the cues and the craving. And the fourth noble truth is also cues and a certain other type of craving. So in Buddhism, we have two different types of craving. We have craving that causes suffering, that's tanha, and we have craving, which is part of the path, which is chanda. So you'll find it in the chanting book under the definition of right effort. In right effort, you chandang janeti, you generate desire, you generate this wholesome type of desire. So there is an aspect of generating desire, of wholesome craving on the path to the end of suffering. And there's responding to dukkha, responding to unwholesome craving, and the reward. What's the reward for the unwholesome type of craving? Dukkha. Dukkha, the first noble truth. That's our reward. When we crave in this unhelpful way, when we crave for sensual pleasures, for sights, or certainly on a coarse level. So when we crave for anything which breaks the precepts, then our reward is going to be dukkha. When we crave for those things, when we crave to kill, when we desire to steal, to do any kind of sexual misconduct or to lie, and then we act on that, we respond to that, then our reward is going to be dukkha. But similarly, if we act on the different cues in our environment and that we can set up in our environment that are part of the path, and then we generate the wholesome desire, the aspect of right effort to practice meditation, to be more generous, to have more morality, to bring more ethics and integrity into our lives. When we have that desire, and then when we enact that, when we respond, then our reward is sukha. It's the ending of suffering. And eventually, it will be full enlightenment when we incline in that way. And it'll be just better and better sukha, better and better sukha. The Buddha said, when you realize that by letting go of a lesser or a more harmful type of sukha or pleasure or happiness, by holding on to a more refined or better sukha, happiness, pleasure, then the wise person goes up to and inclines towards that more refined and better sort of happiness. And the Buddha called when you keep precepts, he called that, it can be the bliss of blamelessness, the anavajja sukha, the happiness of blamelessness. Why did he call it that? Because you don't blame yourself when you don't do anything that you regret. Then you can sleep at night. You can go to sleep and you don't stay up all night just thinking about all the crappy things you did to your family and your spouse and your friends. And you can sleep and you have the bliss, the happiness, the sukha of blamelessness. So we have these two paths that we can take, the path of dukkha and the path of non-dukkha, the path that leads to the end of suffering. And really, it's our choice of which one we do in every single moment. Do we want to take the path of dukkha? Do we want to feed that craving which has its reward dukkha? Or do we want to feed that wholesome chanda, this wholesome craving which leads to the end of dukkha? And James Clear has a neat, his way of suggesting how to incline towards wholesome habits, i.e. to get better at this fourth noble truth, is you make the aspects, he's not talking about the Eightfold Path, but we can do it. We can do it. If you want to incline towards right view, right thought, right speech, right action, that is, actions which avoid stealing and harming others, incline towards meditation, incline towards a mind which is still and a mind which is at peace in itself, then you make those habits OAES. You do these OAs, OAES, obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. Make the Fourth Noble Truth, make the Eightfold Path obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. Make the Fourth Noble Truth, the Eightfold Path, obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. And do this OAs, OAES. And how do you do this? How do you do this? You have to use skillful means. So to be more generous, make your generosity obvious. You know, if you want to come and, you know, make an offering to, there's only 2 monks, or, you know, there's not that many monastics, but if you want to be generous, if you want to make a meal for your family, make it obvious, put it on your calendar, put the food out the night before, make it attractive, put up, you know, signs, put up pictures of all the beauty of generosity, you know, have a folder on your phone of just beautiful people making offerings. There's got to be like something, it's got to be pictures online, stuff like that. Google. So make it obvious and make it attractive. Make your generosity, make your precepts attractive, make them obvious. I know people who, does anybody here not have the 5 precepts memorized? It's probably, you don't have to raise your hand. If you don't, make them obvious by printing them out and putting it just right next to your light, you know, in your room. Before you leave your room, maybe if you want to memorize these things, make it obvious. You don't leave your room until you read these out. Make it obvious. Make it attractive. Make it easy. Make it easy to keep these precepts. Make it easy to be generous. Make it easy to do meditation. One way to make meditation obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying, or at least obvious and easy, is to, in your room, chances are that you have got a big old bed up in there. And what that does is it just gives primacy to sleep. You walk into your room, and what you're doing is just priming yourself to sleep. You've got this huge thing. It's an altar to sleep, and which is fair enough. You know, we do have to sleep, and it's good to have healthy sleep habits. And but why not foreground? Why not make the center of your room, or at least some place in your bedroom, your meditation cushion? Leave it out on the ground, a sacred space. Make it obvious. You walk into your room, and there's your meditation cushion. I give you permission to spend however much you want to spend. If you like spending money, go all out. Get a super expensive meditation cushion. Make it satisfying. That's the best meditation cushion. And you spent money on that. So you've got commitment in there. You've got commitment. There's sunk cost in that meditation cushion. So you better get your money's worth. And there it is. As soon as you walk into your room, there it is. It's easy. It's easy. You can almost trip over it. Why not just sit down? Make your meditation obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. So that's what we're doing on the level of our good habits, And with our bad habits, that is the craving which leads to further becoming, which leads to sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. That is the second noble truth. Make the second noble truth the opposite of always, which is NEVR. You never want to do these things because they'll just lead to suffering. And what is that? Make them non-obvious. This acronym, I made this up. It's not that good. But you make it non-obvious rather than obvious. You make it eerie rather than attractive. You make it vexing rather than easy. And you make it repulsive rather than satisfying. Non-obvious. Anybody? Yeah. Eerie, vexing, and repulsive. Non-obvious, i.e. hidden, eerie, vexing, and repulsive. Make your bad habits just ugly and make them hard, make them invisible. So if you want to give up junk food, don't make it obvious in your kitchen. Make it hidden. Make it non-obvious. Get it out of your house. If you want to make your cell phone and all those different apps that are addictive, if you don't want to addict yourself to those things, then make them invisible. Make them non-obvious. Get an app like Freedom or any other kind of like app blocker that will block your apps and just make them totally hidden, totally non-obvious, and not easy. It's vexing. You have to I have had these apps, and there have been times when I've tried to get around them, and it's not easy. It's vexing. It's hard. So, and you want to increase the friction on your bad habits. Increase the friction on your bad habits because they lead to dukkha, the craving for sensuality. So, any of the cravings which lead away from being able to keep the 5 precepts. If you want to give up, killing. If you want to give up killing, even animals, then get rid of your mice traps, get rid of your fly traps, make them invisible. If you want to give up lying, if you want to give up really any of your bad habits, then make your good habits easier by joining a group that already practices what you're trying to do. Find a commitment buddy, somebody who you can practice with and whom already really embodies all the skills that you're trying to develop yourself. And that just helps. It just totally decreases the friction on your good habits. So, make your Eightfold Path, make it obvious, attractive, easy, satisfying, and make the second noble truth, all the craving which leads to suffering, make that non-obvious, make it eerie, make it vexing, and make it repulsive. So with that, we'll just maybe give a little bit of introduction into what we'll be chanting tonight. So the Itipiso chanting, which hopefully everybody has one of the sheets, because we're going to be chanting it 108 times. So it could be possible that you would memorize it within that time, but it's also helpful to have it for the first at least several rounds. So this is a very traditional chant. It's been chanted since the time of the Buddha. It appears in different discourses in the Pali Canon. And it's very common in Thailand, in every theravada country. So Sri Lanka, Burma, Thailand, Vietnam, even Laos, Cambodia, to do this 108 Itipiso chanting, to chant the praises of the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, the homage to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. So we'll be chanting, He, the Blessed One, the Noble One, the perfectly enlightened one, in Pali. He's impeccable in conduct and understanding, the accomplished one, the knower of the worlds. He is an unsurpassed trainer of trainable people. He is trainer of gods and humans. He is awake and holy. And the essence of that is that second to last epithet, the Buddho, what we were using as our meditation object, that which knows. And the Thai translation for that is knowing, that which knows, that which is awake, and that which is fresh and bright. So as we chant this Itipiso, the first part, to the Buddha Jim, to the Bhagava, the Blessed One, just try to bring a sense of awareness and awakeness to your practice, and let that be the cue. Let the cue, i.e. the contact when you look around you or you hear other people, let that be a cue for this wholesome chanda, the craving, the wholesome craving towards awakening, to being awake right now, to awareness in the present moment. And the response is just exactly what you're doing, enacting that wakefulness as you chant. And your reward, hopefully, will be sukha in the present moment. What we chant immediately after that is in Pali. We'll chant it, and the translation is, well expounded by the Blessed One is the Dhamma, apparent here and now, timeless, encouraging investigation, leading inwards or onwards, individually to be experienced by the wise. So that's the Dhamma. It's apparent here and now. It's timeless. In those two things, let that be a cue as you chant this second part of the chant. Remember the meaning of that, and let it be a cue to spark this wholesome desire, this chanda for this awareness here and now, this timeless awakening, this timeless being with what is right now. And the final part, the homage to the Sangha Jim, the third refuge. Well practiced is the Blessed One's, or the Blessed One's disciple, Sangha. Directly or uprightly practiced are the Blessed One's disciple, Sangha. Insightfully or methodically practiced are the Blessed One's disciple, Sangha. Properly practiced are the Blessed One's disciple, Sangha. That is the 4 pairs of people, the 8 kinds of individual persons. This is the Blessed One's disciple, Sangha. Such ones are worthy of gifts, worthy of hospitality, worthy of offerings, worthy of respect. They are an unsurpassable, incomparable merit field for the world. So the 4 pairs of people, you can think about that as either the fourfold parisa, or as the 4 types of enlightened beings, that is sotapannas, stream enterers, once returners, non-returners, and arhats, those people who have realized some level of awakening and realized in their own life an attainment which there's no falling back from. So even when you've attained stream entry, this is the first level of Buddhist awakening. And at that moment, when you've kind of refined or purified the heart to that level, you're basically just keeping precepts naturally. The mind has no more inclination to harming or to transgressing any of the precepts. So let that third chant, as we go through this third of three aspects of the chant, let that cue both hearing ourselves chant, hearing other people chant, and trying to harmonize both our own chanting voices with the voices of others. Let that be a cue for the wholesome craving which wants to enact this, which wants to realize this truth for ourselves. There is a wholesome type of craving, this chanda, which the Buddha actually says you can and you need to relate to this wish in a healthy way. But the Buddha says you can actually nurture this wish. When, oh when, will I know that peace of mind, that unshakable peace of mind, deliverance, which the enlightened ones now dwell and live in? So when will I realize and know for myself that deliverance of mind and deliverance by wisdom, which the noble ones now dwell in? That's a wish, and that's a wholesome wish which we can cultivate. And the result of that will be sukha, hopefully, if we relate to it skillfully. So that's the chant, and that's what we can be paying attention to. And we'll now shift into about an hour of sitting and walking meditation. And you can take that Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha as your meditation object with the breath if you like, or really whatever method of meditation and stilling the mind you're most comfortable with. And we'll just be together, and I look forward to spending the next, it's probably like 8 hours. It's going to be a long time that we're going to be together. So you can settle in, and I hope everyone has a really beautiful evening, and we'll usher you through the evening with different comments about what comes next. So.
Han Dhammayang Dhammagata Sadhu Pagarang Tadamase Sadhu 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 Anumodami.
Who here doesn't know